This should be our intro, and then you cut it, and we're like, okay.
You know, guys, we can start right now. We should start now.
Yeah, just do it now before I stop talking.
So what do you get when you have a vegan, a former Sunday school teacher, and a beautiful model?
I don't know what.
This podcast.
What?
Dun-dun-dun.
Welcome to the Sacramento Media Center. This is John Christensen. I'm the working manager. I open the door in the morning and close it at night sometimes. And with me is my super ninja, talent of everything, business partner, associate, best friend, just person who's my best sounding board.
April Potter.
Yes. And with us also is Phil Mohr.
Well, hello.
Hello, Phil.
I feel like we've done this before.
You know, in another alternate universe.
It's like Groundhog's Day.
Groundhog's Day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
But yeah, you haven't been in this building for quite a while.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, but you got to come in today, and it was awesome. And Phil works with us on a lot of projects. We've been working together for, gosh, how many years? At least.
Before I came on board with you guys.
It was.
11.
Almost
It's
11 years.
been quite a while.
Yeah.
At least a decade.
It's been, yeah.
Phil's been my director of photography.
Yep, not getting any older.
And editor. And actually, you also give me great advice on computers, what we should invest in.
Yes, and overall nerd gear consultant.
Nerd gear consultant, yep. And Phil
Number
says,
one, John, stop buying things from Pro-Aim.
well, you know, it's cheap, you know, it breaks in the first
It usually
6
goes
months.
like this. You say, hey, should I buy this? I say,
Nope.
nope. And then you're like, look what I just got.
Yep. Not really.
So why'd you ask?
You also,
He's an asshole.
An asshole. Oh, that's good. Wow.
you guys are cruel.
I love
but you're
it.
right, though.
You're basically asking me because you already bought it. And
Already
you
bought
don't
it.
want to hear
And
my
he just
answer.
wants-
You just want me to say, oh, yeah, good job.
And it's a phone call, not in person, because he doesn't want you to see the face he made.
Yeah, exactly. I want you to say, oh, I can't wait to use that. And, of course, it breaks in 6 months. You know.
Exactly.
But then again,
Or
you
as soon
send
as
me.
you put it in my hand.
Yeah, you put it on-
Hey, that's
It's in
true.
your-
One time I sent you a link for something that was too large to fit in your van. So,
Oh, that
you know,
was.
I screw up too.
And I was going to say, you send me links all the time. John, get this. And I do. And it's a lot of Amazon links or B&H, which is a great resource. And yeah.
Just got that magazine in the mail.
Yes, the B&H
I looked
catalog
at it
just
last
came
night
out.
like it was my
Yep.
porn. I was like,
I
what
think
is
people,
this?
I think, you know, for in the day of web, B&H still does the catalog, but why not? Because people still like to
I
see.
love
Well,
the
I'll tell you,
catalog.
when I
Good.
forget my phone and I'm taking a dump, I've still got a B&H catalog in my bathroom. So it gets me through those
You're
dark
doing a
times where I
bowel
don't have my
movement
phone.
and you're happy, so B&H.
Yeah.
The
Sorry.
term TMI doesn't exist here, which
No.
is fine.
No. All right, now that we're done with our
Now we're done with the morning,
conversations,
I mean,
conversations.
the sad part is
Yeah.
you could edit this entire thing out.
we
Yeah.
can, but it was just fun.
I'm not.
Good.
Let's let our listeners hear the
Good,
real
good,
dirty.
good.
Yeah.
Because this is important topics.
It is very part of
It
the
is.
It's the stuff
It
that
is.
no one wants to talk about, but everyone thinks about.
do.
Like
You-
right now, I'm
Yeah. You're
turtling.
Are you turtling there? Are you gripping? A little bit.
All right. So today we're talking what?
Today we're talking about post-production
Yeah.
because both Phil and I, even though we're good shooters, and in fact, we're both photographers, videographers, lighting guys.
I'm a pretty terrible photographer. I'm not going to lie.
Well, let's talk
My thing.
videography. At least for DP, director of photography, we're really good.
Oh,
at
okay.
that. We
Yeah,
do
yeah.
that well. And but majority of the work is now post production. And even if you shoot for half a day, you're maybe editing your project for 2 or 3 days. So it's always post production seems to take more time in any output.
That it does.
Yes. But Phil, what is your go-to program you use when you post production?
I've always been a Premiere guy. I used to get made fun of for being a Premiere person,
Me too.
and now it seems to kind of be dominating. Everybody was gung-ho for Final Cut, and, then Apple decided to come out with Final Cut 10 or X, whatever you fanboys want to call it, and they kind of got dethroned.
They lost a lot of users.
They simplified it. It was almost like iMovie Pro,
Yeah.
but everybody knows this stuff already, so...
Well, Adobe also
I
stepped
don't.
up
I'm
too.
the newbie on the post production, so that's why I look to you guys. I'm sitting here. That's why I'm a little bit more quiet to you guys. Is these two that I'm sitting next to have so much experience in post production.
Unfortunately.
and that's where I'm over here going. Yeah, I'm the new one on the post production, and these two I get to sit in. Well, Phil not so much, but John I watch in on his editing and his style. But he got me started on Premiere Pro as well. So that's the only thing I can talk about because I really don't know any other platform to edit off of.
You were able to at least not go through different software.
Right.
It was always neck and neck. One does a little better than the other. And for a while there, and this is several years ago now, at least 10, that it was a toss-up which software you're using. And then sometimes you'd be graded, what kind of software are you using? Final Cut Pro? Are you using Avid?
Avid,
which is a
Avid
whole
was huge at NAB.
It's
they
very
had
huge.
like a
they had
really
a huge booth there. Yeah. And they're still using the same design. They've made updates and upgrades. Now Blackmagic is getting into editing with the Evolve. I think it's Evolve. Resolve. Thank you. Resolve. I'm a proponent for Sony Vegas, even though
I'm glad I didn't have to bring it up. You're a Vegas guy.
I am a Vegas guy. I like it because when I'm out in the field, I can do a really quick assemblage with Vegas. And I still like using Vegas for when it comes to audio.
They had very fantastic audio time stretching algorithms.
Yes, they do. They do. But it's kind of a different approach when you do that, when you use Vegas and Premiere. But you go with what you're comfortable with. You go with what gives you the output you need. And
I mean, really, it's you go what you're the fastest at. I mean,
absolutely.
That's the main thing.
Speed's key nowadays.
Time is money.
Yeah. And I'm an old dog here. I used to, in my first editing work, was 3/4 inch, but that was the technology of the day, and we were doing all kinds of great stuff. I never cut film. I had an opportunity, but I never got into film editing. And when you consider film editing and linear editing is when you're using tape and you're backing it up and you do your first scene and your second scene, third scene. And if you had to change your first scene again on videotape, you had to start all over again.
Yep. Start from scratch.
That sucks.
Non-linear editing is what we are doing with today's software. And even though we have all the tools in the world, the more options you are allowed, the more time it's going to take. And
True.
And if it's a long form or a short form, you still have to go for those quick shortcuts, know the shortcut keys, and make those things come together.
That's always the hardest part is learning those dang shortcut keys.
Yeah. But Phil, do you feel that these quick keys that we learn, do you think that's something we do enough that it becomes rote?
Absolutely, yeah. It's muscle memory.
Muscle memory, yeah. And so the more you do, the faster you get.
So I do, music production and stuff too, and sometimes it screws me up because I use Premiere and it has a different set of shortcuts than when I make music in Cubase. So I'll be trying to zoom in with G and H in Premiere, and it's like I'm just screwing up my timeline. When I'm like, no, I'm just trying to zoom.
That's hella funny.
You're better at it. The more you do, the better.
And if you don't know anything, pick something and try it out.
Well,
because
download DaVinci.
Download DaVinci.
Download
it's free.
Resolve. You
Resolve
can get the free
and
version.
and just get yourself started there. Yeah. Getting started can also be a hassle.
Yeah, it's daunting sometimes.
Very daunting.
Especially
and that's where I'm at is the getting started. Because I'm the newbie in the room. So I've got a couple edits that I'm in the middle of. One is a long form, and another is a short form. So for someone like me who is getting clients and, is building a business but isn't a fast editor and doesn't know the short codes or any of those things, what would you gentlemen say is a good way to get started or to increase, the speed through it? Because I've got a good flow in being, the shooter of, the person behind the camera doing all the filming.
You can tell a story.
I already know what I'm looking at, and I'm already versed on that. But then to make it fast in post-production is where I have a hard time still and not the most confidence on getting it done quickly. So how would you, what are some suggestions or that you would say for me to get started or anyone else?
I've got a good one.
Yeah.
Source it out to somebody else for cheaper than it's boom, problem
what
solved.
If that's not the case and you can't, that's not part of it?
That's funny.
Because that is literally part of the goal is to have someone else kind of help out on that so I can keep moving forward.
You ask a very good question because we all still face it. Okay, you got this material, you got this idea, it's in your head, how am I going to tell the story or on paper.
Right.
But how do you get a good start and especially if, it's confusing. I first would say know your footage and go through it. If it takes time, just go through all the footage, put on the timeline, use the razor tool, and then cut out the really good scenes that you have. It's knowing your inventory.
And when he's saying that, he's saying, watch all of your footage. So you might actually have 5 hours of footage because you use multiple cameras. Yep. You do need to go through.
And there's an advantage when you shoot it. When you shoot,
right.
You kind of remember, this was the
this
time
camera had this.
Or I left the camera on or something like that. And,
right.
When you're first starting out, you get the hang of it eventually. But you need to know your footage. That's my first suggestion. What do you think, Phil? What would be another?
I mean, I think that's huge. And the unfortunate part is sometimes watching all the footage it's tedious, it's mind-numbing, and I hate doing it, especially when it's stuff I didn't shoot.
Even worse.
Because I'm like, oh, God, I have no frame of reference, so I don't know what shot's coming next. I don't know if this shooter is going to hold a shot out long enough, you know. That's always very frustrating for me.
Which I've been the shooter that has not done that, and John has had to go through my footage and been like, April. And I'm like, what?
You do a pan.
And so there are certain, like, I've had those
Yeah.
issues of, it didn't complete what would have been helpful for the editor. So now I've got a better grasp on that. So
And you become a better shooter when you edit
Right.
your
You
material.
do, yeah,
you realize,
because I used to do it too. I used to be like, oh, got enough, click.
Yeah.
And then, especially on some of the older, like, camcorders, when you would hit, the stop button, it would seem to lose some time before you hit stop,
that's why put your hands in your pocket when you're filming.
Yeah.
Don't touch the button.
Don't touch the buttons.
Let it,
But
let
then
it roll through.
don't overshoot, too,
Right.
because that's another issue.
It's,
But anyways.
it's a happy
Okay.
medium between the two, yeah.
So point number 2.
Keep your timeline organized. Keep your real estate on your screen to something that's accessible for you, and try to fit everything correctly if you can fit. If you have 2 screens, fit that up. And I've seen you do that.
Yeah, that's how I have it. And
Yeah.
you and I, we have our different, it's called your workspace, I guess, in Adobe.
Right.
And you can build what it looks like for you. So I have mine set up how is good for me in mine, the way I like it. And I've seen that you have yours set up very different, but
Your timeline, where you make your workspace, is what you like. There's no right or wrong.
Yeah,
When
absolutely.
you think about it. And it really isn't, so don't worry about that.
Right.
If it's comfortable for you, stick with that. If you want to adjust and build up later, then
Right.
that's when you do that. So yeah, be confident with that. You're fine. Just make it organized so it's something that you can always rely on.
because if you confuse yourself, it's all bad. And I've
Then you
done
get
that
lost.
where I've literally been
You
like,
get lost.
I don't know what I just did and where did my stuff go? Okay.
I would say the next one would be keep an open mind. You may have a story you want to tell, but you know what? You may find something else that tells a different story or a better story.
Yeah, sometimes just grabbing like random parts of an interview where you're like, oh, I know I like this part, but I think this should come later. And sometimes just throw it in out of order and you can be surprised and be like, oh, I think I just stumbled on something. And then you're almost not telling a new story, but you're getting to the point of that story via like a different pacing and route. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And it happens all the
Sometimes
time.
just like mix it up and throw things around, Put the puzzle piece in the wrong spot.
So we do all of this, but then how do we speed up the process as well? Because we don't want to take, you've got people that are, waiting for their product to be delivered so that they can continue their business.
That's true.
Because that's what we do.
The thing is, you got to stick with what you know and build up. And I would always say, learn by rote. Do it enough where it's muscle memory, and just know your fastest way to get. Start simple, make something simple, and then throw that out and start it again, and try to find out what's a quicker way of doing it. But get to a point where it's automatic for you.
And I don't think there's like shortcuts to a lot of this stuff. A lot of this stuff is just doing it over and over again and succeeding sometimes and then failing. Like that's honestly the only way you get better at anything, right? I
So
mean,
that brings
or
me
faster.
to my
at
other thought
anything.
is because I guess we tend to not practice the craft unless you really got a job or a reason to do it, because you're trying to film stuff. So do you recommend doing some sort of editing on a daily basis or a few times a week that's maybe not necessarily attached to a job that you're being paid for,
Absolutely.
but so you can get your...
I mean, but before I did this stuff for money, I did it for fun.
Yeah.
So that's when I learned, like,
Okay.
not the right way and the wrong way, but the way that worked for me and the ways that didn't work for me, the things that were fast, the things that were slow.
It's like reading a book, how to do something, and then actually doing it, or learning how to do it yourself. You'll learn faster when you do it yourself.
Yeah. Do
And-
30 garbage videos before you make a good one, and then like, oh, I learned a lot from those 30 trashy videos,
And then you get your muscle memory from that. So absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
And the more time you spend on it, the better you get.
I mean, it's just like writing a song or anything creative, really. Like, you just have to practice it.
Yeah.
And practicing is not always fun.
That's true. Another thing too, you got to recognize what you have. Good material is much easier to work with.
Yes, garbage in, garbage out.
Garbage.
You can polish a turd,
polish a
kind
turd,
of.
but
You
it's
can't
still a
polish
turd.
it. You can like put some shiny edges on a turd, but like
It's still.
if it's a bad interview, it's
just
a
a bad
bad
interview.
interview.
If
Like
it's a
you
bad
can't.
angle, bad
can't
focus,
spin
bad
gold out of it,
audio, and audio is huge. People-
Audio
yeah.
for me has been, you got to make sure they're laughing because I've had a couple snafus where it's like you.
Well, yeah. One of the
being a
most important
newbie-
things with audio is make sure that you record it.
Shut your
That's a really big one.
check yourself because it ain't always correct.
You're right. And then you have to turn something out really fast. And if you can get at least decent footage, and when you're putting it together, simplify your story. Simplify is just cuts. Don't worry about dissolves and stuff like that. Just keep the requirements simple, not worry about it. And a good example, let's say you block everything out, you got your material, you want to tell your story, line all the cuts up before you put the addition stuff to it, like text and everything else.
Absolutely, yeah, because you can get bogged down in the details, like, oh, I better put a lower thirds for this person. No, screw that. Do that at the end, because you may not even use that person.
You may change that out.
I do that as well. I think that's probably your coaching on that. It's just really taking the time to go through the process, like, did you lay it out right? Now, how was audio? Now, did you do the color correcting and do that? So do it in layers so you're not overwhelmed, because it's easy to get overwhelmed.
And again, when I deliver to clients, I say, here's a draft. Send me notes. In fact, we could talk about how having clients sitting with you. I mean, both Phil and I hate it. Unless they know what they're doing.
I've had it happen a few times where I've had people that just, they want to sit by. So, like, we'll say the music video style, like, but those were live, audio, and people really like to sit in and see. And when you're working with an artist, they like to be part of their artwork in a very different way. Where I've seen business people, like someone that owns like a restaurant or something of that nature, they don't tend to want to sit in. They're like, just do your thing.
Don't make me look dumb.
Exactly. Yeah.
Whereas, like with musicians too, not only are you worried about their performance looking good, they're worried about things like,
oh, I didn't like the fact that my eyes were closed in that spot.
Right.
And this is coming, but Phil is a musician and performer as well
I've made quite a few music videos for bands I've been in. Guess who's barely in the video? Me. Because I'm the number one person who doesn't want to see myself on film. I'm like,
well, I don't like how my eyebrow was raised there. My lips were pursed in a strange way. Why am I biting my cheek? This is really strange. You know how I'll solve this?
You don't put yourself in?
I just won't be in it. Whoops.
So funny.
Like I said, it goes back to the editor has the power to change everything in the final product.
The only thing that has changed with like clients sitting in over your shoulder now that we have cell phones and everything, a lot of the times they're totally distracted and not paying attention to you as much anymore. So that is one thing that I'm thankful for.
Because they'll be on their phones doing their email, or they bring their laptops. That's what we do in my studio. And then I'm working on it, and they'll look up. Let me know when you have something. Show me, and they go back to their. Yeah, that's fine.
So it has gotten.
I don't mind the company.
Better.
That's okay. Yeah. It has gotten better, but there's times where they don't understand the process. The worst thing you want is so why'd you do that? I mean, and they don't understand. I just moved that clip aside. But why do I want to save that clip? Okay, please hold on.
Right. You're like, I did not ship it off to China. It is still here in the country. We are fine. We are fine.
But I think you have to find your groove. Okay. And we all are different. Phil's different. I'm different. You're different. You and I have worked together a lot, and we watch each other edit at the same time in two different on the same table. Right. But you'll see me get up, and I'll go out and get myself a cup of coffee, and I'll go out and sit on the loading dock and just watch the trains go by. I'm just recouping. I'm just getting myself away from the screen to come back with fresh eyes, and that's really a value for me. If it gets to a point where you're doing, and nothing's coming through, some people may call it writer's block or loop, going through loop. That's when you kind of have to like step away or throw it out and do it again. Okay. Phil and I were just talking about you got a really good scene, and you don't want to get rid of good scenes, but you do a nice little first minute piece, and you watch it over, but you don't know where to go next, so you watch it over and over and over again. Yep. I like that idea to watch it over again, but then I always try not to do it too much, because if I do it too much, then it gets ingrained and becomes I'll never always see it one way for the rest of my life, even if I don't see this thing for 10 years. I'll always see it a certain way.
That's something I struggle with too, because I will spend generally more time than I would ever charge for on an edit, and so I'm very happy usually by the time I send it off to a client, and I've watched it so many times and I've spent so much time color correcting it and getting the audio perfect that it's like, for me, that's the edit. And then sometimes it works out and they're like, perfect, no notes. Actually, a lot of the times it works out that way. But but when it doesn't, it's like, I never like the final product after that.
You lose your objectivity when you watch it too much. Now, and again.
And that's something I need to work on. Like,
this is when you're watching it 90 times. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For me, I would say that's my limit. I'm
at about 530.
There you go. See, but that's a very good question, and you're not alone because we all still struggle with that today. I mean, I'll start something. So, what do I do with this? And
For sure.
Do you ever like lose steam in it and you're like, I just don't want to finish it, but I freaking have
Every
to.
time I edit.
Okay.
that's when you have to.
It's,
So don't-
it's
don't
not
freak
fun.
out-
The
don't
only
freak out
fun
about
part
it.
for me is, I mean, other than getting the check for a job well done or adequately done, depending on the
Right.
outcome.
The completed job.
The best part is when it's signed off on and I can watch it back again, like a couple months later, and be like, "Oh, that was kind of a decent edit."
Okay.
But I don't enjoy editing. I mean, I will not lie about that. I do not like it.
It's a tedious process.
Yeah.
Not everyone can do it. This can do it really well.
And it sucks that I'm halfway decent at it because
Yep.
I could have done something completely different with my life, but here I am.
Here you are.
Sorry.
And you're right. It's a love-hate. It's tedious as all get out. And I've actually had people who start off with me once learning editing, and then they can't stand the first hour, and then they leave because it's just all that coming together. And this is in
Well,
the
it's
non-linear
learning a
age.
new language. If
it
you're
is-
not prepared to open your mind up to literally learning a new language,
Again,
it
back
will
to
be
Total Recall.
very rough.
Open your mind.
What other things on post-production should we be aware of, or do you think is a pertinent topic to maybe talk about?
An editor may not be pleased with the final product. There's always one more little thing you can do. Well, that's everything. It's artists the same way. If I could just do one more little paint stroke, and you just have to let it go. But I think it's smart to see where your material goes to. Let's say it goes to YouTube, or let's say it goes to a TV station. It's good to take a look at that, see how it's being used. Not just to say, hey, I can pat myself on the back, even though you should, but how does it work on that format? And if I see something, we need to correct that. And I've actually seen that where I've done something and I realize, okay, they're showing this on a very small screen and we got tiny text there. We got to fix this because, and that's the other thing, know where your product's going. And sometimes they don't. Sometimes your client doesn't even know or understand.
They just think that it's able to be used across all platforms no matter what.
Yeah, it's not. You're like, well, this
just like how they make friends.
Aspect ratio is 4:3, and this is widescreen. Those two things don't really get along.
I get that all the time. And I think another thing too that editors kind of learn. They know they've done a good job when they have people who've never seen it before watch it, and then you ask them, "Well, how long do you think that video was? Do you think it was too long, too short?" And when they don't even know, I don't know how long was that? 3 minutes, and it was an 8-minute show.
Yeah,
you've done well.
That is actually that is a good feeling.
Yeah, it's a very good feeling when people get engaged, and
it doesn't happen a lot. And it's the same thing with writing a song. People are always into it for the first minute and a half. They're like, "Oh, this is cool. Where's it going?"
Right.
But then by the time you get to that last chorus, when you see people kind of they're looking around, looking at your ceiling, like, "Whoa, I never noticed that Phil's ceiling had popcorn." You know,
your song's got some.
Maybe you didn't need to hear that last chorus again.
That's right. It's an art. It's a process. My 30, 40 years of editing, even from back linear days, my first videos were I was very nervous. Would someone want to watch this? Is this okay? Is this where a cut goes? Or, but it's the confidence. And it's also when you do a project from the beginning, there's a lot of work to do, and then you finally finish it, there is an accomplished feeling you get with that your next job's easier.
And so much growth that happens in the whole time that you're like, I don't even know how to tell you what I went through personally on this project, but I grew.
Yep. But there is, and the best way to end this in a really bright note, it's not for everybody, but those who do it, I can't wait for the next job. But that's why I like doing TV commercials because they're short little epics.
For sure.
A week.
I love short things, but I'd rather do even a minute-long video than a hour-and-a-half long documentary because that is basically torture.
Yeah, and it's going to take you a year to finish it, probably.
Oh, but sometimes you don't get a year, John.
Well, and then depends on our deadlines.
Right.
Just got to hope for the best.
Yeah.
So,
Phil, it's awesome having you here.
Thank you for coming and joining our Episode 4.
Episode 4.
Yes.
Sorry, all. Editing's boring. Sorry we talked about it for a long time.
Right.
Is this like a support group we got here?
This was total
I think
support.
I love it, yeah. Just
What if we're the only 3 assholes that hate editing?
Yeah.
And everybody
They're all
Everybody
saying,
else
what's
loves
wrong
it.
with these
And I'm like,
guys?
What's wrong with these people?
That's true. We feel your pain. This is the Sacramento Media Center podcast. Thank you for listening, and if you'd like to know more about what we do, come see us at sacmediacenter.com on our website, or visit April at
pearlproductions.com.
And Phil, do you have a web presence?
Yeah, hit me up at www.phillyblunt.org.
Is that for real?
No.
Not even remotely.
Try it anyway, folks. You never know.